After my husband cheated on me with my best friend in my past life, I left home with only my daughter. I worked 2 jobs every day and managed to put her through college. Who would have thought that on the day of her graduation, my ex-husband and best friend poisoned me together? The poison had been purchased by my daughter. She told me that if I hadn't insisted on taking her away back then, she would have been living in a large villa, driving a luxury car, and enjoying a wealthy life with my best friend long ago. She said that I made her live as a poor person for 15 years, and she hated me for it. When I woke up again, I found myself back on the day of our divorce. My husband, however, had regrets. "Jack, what did you make me drink?" Jack had just forced me to drink a liquid with a strange smell. As soon as it touched my mouth, I felt a burning sensation in my throat. Grace had asked a classmate to buy it from the countryside. I had originally thought that if you cooperated, I wouldn't need to force you to drink it, but I didn't expect you to be so stubborn. "Quick, where did you hide the house property certificate?" "We were once married. Just do me this favor." "You're dreaming." Jack poisoned me just because I refused to give him the house property certificate. "You're going to die anyway, so why are you still hiding it?" Sophia spoke slowly from the sofa. Since the moment she entered, she had been a silent observer, watching Jack harm me and Grace sneer at me. I felt the intense pain in my body as I looked at Grace. "Grace, I'm your mother. We've relied on each other for so many years. Why are you helping your father harm me? I'm your biological mother. Why are you treating me like this?" She responded, "If you hadn't taken me away when you divorced Dad, I would have been the daughter of a rich man. If I had stayed with Aunt Sophia, William wouldn't have dumped me for being poor and gone after the rich second-generation guy in our class. It's all because of you. You're so poor. You should have just lived your own life. Why did you have to make me suffer with you? I'm really unlucky to be your daughter." Jack grew impatient and started rummaging through the room. "Stop talking to her. Hurry up and find it. You've hidden it so well. Who are you guarding against?" I lay curled up on the floor, struggling to keep my eyes open, looking at the daughter I had raised with such effort and the man who once said he loved me. They had turned into strangers, terrifying and unrecognizable. I struggled to push myself up and crawled toward Grace, only managing to touch the hem of her pants. "Grace, save Mom. Mom's in so much pain." Grace kicked me aside and continued helping Jack search my wardrobe, throwing all my clothes onto the floor. Eventually, they found the house property certificate hidden in the lining. This house had been left to me by my parents. Even though life had been extremely difficult for me later on, I never sold it. It was the dowry I had planned for Grace, the only valuable thing I owned. Grace handed the certificate to her father, and Jack finally smiled. "Once we sell this house, my company will be saved." Grace waved at me and said, "I'm going to the graduation party. As for you, by the time I come back in a few days, you'll probably be dead. Don't worry, I've already prepared the suicide note for you. Goodbye." Watching the three of them leave, I slowly slipped into a coma. Emily, Emily. I woke up suddenly, looking at Jack in front of me and then at the divorce agreement in my hand. "Am I back?" Jack asked. "What other tricks do you want to play? Just sign it quick. We're in a hurry. Sophia has to go for her prenatal checkup later." "I won't sign." I put down the pen, holding my trembling hand, and said 3 words. As soon as I spoke, Jack, the man who was about to be my ex-husband, exploded. "What do you mean, Emily? Didn't we already talk about this? Don't tell me you're having second thoughts now." Looking at his furious face, I couldn't help but think how ridiculous he looked. Why had I loved him so much before? I had really been blind. He had pursued me for 2 years before I agreed to be with him. He used to say he loved me, but now look at him. He poisoned me to death. "Emily, is this fun for you? Dragging it out won't benefit anyone. He doesn't love you anymore. Why are you still holding on?" It was my good friend Sophia speaking. She had been my best friend, but now she was the next wife of the man about to be my ex-husband. I had once considered her a close friend, but she had set her sights on my husband. She even brought the pregnant mistress along when divorcing his wife. Jack was shameless. Sophia had been my business partner in the dance studio. After I married and had a baby, I never regained my pre-baby figure. She said she'd handle the studio so I could stay home and care for the baby. We shared the profits, though there wasn't much. I was truly touched. I had thought having a friend like her was a blessing, but it turned out she had bigger ambitions. She wanted to replace me as Mrs. Jack. I had been a fool for 8 years. Since I had the baby, my figure had changed from a small size to an extra large. Jack and Sophia had been brainwashing me all along, one telling me health was most important, the other advising me to stay home and live as a pampered young mistress. I had fallen for their sweet words for 8 years. In my past life, I signed the divorce agreement. I didn't take a penny from Jack. I only wanted custody of my daughter. I thought the studio would support me and my daughter in the future. But then Sophia told me the studio had closed long ago, and the money she'd given me every month was out of pity. Just like that, in my past life, I was left penniless with my 8-year-old daughter. My figure, too, made it impossible for me to return to teaching dance. I could only find work as a hotel cleaner and sell grilled sausages on the street at night. Life was tough. Now that I had a chance to do it all over again, I wouldn't be so foolish. I held the pen and stared at the divorce agreement, making plans. Just sign it. Don't hold up this handsome guy. You must have gone to great lengths to win him over back then, right? Now you still have to get divorced? You know, women forced into love never work out. The staff member had been watching the three of us with a gossipy expression. Seeing I remained silent, she even gave me a once-over. I knew what that look meant. She thought I didn't match Jack's appearance. I looked up at her name tag and said calmly, "Are your words reflecting your department's views? Aren't you afraid I'll file a complaint for what you've said?" I didn't say anything. You all should think it over, and if you're going to sign, do it quickly. The staff member immediately shrank her neck and hurried back to her workstation, pretending to be busy. "Emily, I don't have time to waste on you. You have to sign today, whether you like it or not. Don't be in such a rush. You look really ugly when you're angry. I want to revise the divorce agreement, or I won't sign." Jack sighed in relief and asked, "What do you want?" Sophia looked at me tiredly. "I want half of your property and financial compensation, and I think it's better for our daughter to stay with you. Whoever wants this ungrateful daughter can have her." Just thinking about my daughter made my heart turn cold. In my previous life, I worked tirelessly to send her to college, but look how she treated me. She's really ungrateful. Jack is a big, ungrateful wretch, and Grace is a small one. I don't want either of them anymore, and I won't let them have it easy, including Sophia, the mistress. Half? You're really asking for too much. In 8 years of marriage, did you contribute anything to our finances? You were always spending my money, and now you want half of mine? Are you crazy? Jack was furious and started shouting, jumping 3 feet into the air. He didn't look the least bit refined or gentle anymore. Sophia frowned, anger in her eyes. The staff member peeked over again to watch the drama unfold. Ignoring the three of them, I reached up to touch my hair and said slowly, "If you don't agree, I won't sign. Don't forget, you had an affair during our marriage. If I sue you, you'll have to give me more than half." "I don't care. I have all the time in the world. If you don't want to give it, we'll just drag this out." Sophia grew anxious and tugged at Jack's hand. I knew Sophia was even more nervous than I was because her baby was due in a few months. After thinking about it, half still seemed too little. "Fine, I'll give it to you. Half. Right here." Really cold-hearted for a former wife. "Thanks for the compliment, ex-husband. Come over and sign quickly." Looking at Jack's angry expression, I felt a sense of satisfaction. Divorce isn't the end, but the beginning of a fresh start. The first step in my new life was to lose weight. I joined a large gym in the city center, and the staff at the front desk greeted me with enthusiasm. Perhaps it was because my figure made me an ideal target customer. I decided to sign up for personal training to ensure the weight loss would be more effective. A young staff member gave me a tour, and I was quite impressed with the gym. The best part was that it was close to my new home, so I could walk there, which was very convenient. As I walked past a room, I overheard a man shouting inside. Curious, I stopped and looked a bit longer. A man who seemed to be the supervisor was yelling at a tall, overweight man. Working hard is pointless. Cows work hard too, but have you ever seen them get rich? I asked the young girl next to me who the man was. She told me he was their fitness trainer. I was taken aback. His appearance didn't match that of a fitness trainer at all. No wonder the supervisor was yelling at him. He wasn't always like this. He had a breakup, started eating too much, and let his body go. He hasn't had any customers for months, she explained. No wonder the company wants to fire him. People should have self-awareness. You're just getting fat, not stupid. I've been very clear. You don't need to come in tomorrow. As the man hung his head under the supervisor's scolding, I recalled my past life. Back then, I was also overweight and faced a lot of ridicule. I never understood why society valued being thin so much. We hadn't done anything wrong just because we were a little heavier. When I caught Jack and Sophia together, I overheard Sophia say, "Your wife is so fat. How can you eat with her? You must be starving." My being overweight had even become the reason for my husband's affair. So what if we were fat? Did that make us criminals? Was it wrong to be fat? I was filled with sympathy for the man and quickly started scolding the supervisor. "Who are you? Who gave you the right to interfere in other people's lives?" The supervisor's face turned red as he raised his hand, about to strike me. The overweight man stepped forward, shielding me with his body. I could smell a faint perfume on him. It was a fresh scent. "Supervisor, this is our customer. She's here to sign up for a personal training class," the young girl quickly said, pulling the supervisor away. She looked like she was ready to defend him. "Yes, I want to sign up for his class," I blurted out. The room fell silent, and everyone, including me, was shocked. I only meant to help someone like myself, but now that I'd said it, I had no choice but to follow through. "Now that he has a customer, you can't fire him anymore," I added. Apart from delivery drivers and couriers who rang the doorbell, I rarely had visitors. But today I was surprised when Jack and Grace showed up at my door. The murderer and his accomplice. "What do you want?" I opened the door slightly, standing in the doorway, clearly not wanting to let them in. After 2 months in my past life, I had doted on Grace so much that I would save food for her, even if it meant going hungry. But now, seeing her, I felt a strange internal pain, like something was slowly eating away at me. She was no longer the daughter I worked hard for to give a better life. She had turned into someone who could stand by and laugh as she watched her father poison me. Evil knows no age. Today, the big devil brought the little devil to my doorstep. "Are you going out?" he asked. "No, I'm going to the bathroom," I answered coldly, though I was actually planning to head to the gym. I had a class with Lucas booked. Jack looked a little uncomfortable and gave an awkward laugh. "Grace, call your mom." Jack nudged Grace, and she reluctantly called out, "Mom." I murmured a soft, and asked, "What do you want?" "Well, Sophia and I are going on a trip, and we don't feel comfortable leaving Grace alone, so we thought she could stay with you for a few days." I asked about her grandparents. "Mom and Dad just went to the countryside to visit friends, so there's no one else at home." I looked at Grace's face, which was full of resistance and impatience, and smiled. "Sure, let her stay. I've missed you too, sweetie." I let Grace in, and Jack casually followed. He remarked, "You've lost some weight." I pretended not to hear it. It had been 2 months since I signed up for Lucas's personal training sessions, and both of us had noticeable changes in our bodies. My waist had gotten much slimmer, and my face had lost weight as well. Lucas, who had once been heavy, was now quite fit. His facial features had become more handsome, and he no longer resembled the word fat. Now he could be described as muscular. Lucas was an interesting person, and we spent time together outside of class. Sometimes we went for dinner after class and visited dessert shops. We only looked at the desserts without eating, helping each other stay on track to lose weight and become better versions of ourselves. We didn't want to become the kind of people who are looked down on because of their weight. Thinking about Lucas, a strange feeling stirred in me. Just then, I felt Jack reach out and touch my arm. I snapped back to reality and pushed him away. "What are you doing?" He quickly withdrew, embarrassed. Nothing. I just called you, but you didn't hear me." He stammered. "How have you been lately?" he asked. "Go back." "I'll take care of Grace while she's here," I said, not in the mood to chat with him. I stood by the door, making a gesture for him to leave. Seeing how cold I was, Jack didn't dare say anything more. He patted his daughter's hair and left. Dad, remember to come pick me up and take me home. Grace called after him, her voice full of worry as she feared he wouldn't return. I had to go to the gym for my class and couldn't leave Grace alone at home, so I had no choice but to take her with me. After class, I was too tired to cook, so I took her to a restaurant where Lucas and I often ate. This place was known for its diet meals, and I ordered one for Grace too. It was bland, with no oil or salt. Something she definitely wouldn't like. As expected, she immediately complained that she didn't want to eat it. You're fat and need to lose weight, so it's okay for you to eat this, but why do I have to eat this too? It tastes awful. I want fried chicken and ice cream, she protested. There's no fried chicken or ice cream here, I said, calmly putting the fork she'd thrown back on her plate. Are you doing this on purpose? Aunt Sophia would never give me this disgusting stuff. It's so dry, even a dog wouldn't eat it. Grace whined. Little girl, if you keep talking like that, the boss will come over and scold you, I warned, noticing the boss looking over at us. I gave him an apologetic smile. Is this how a mother should act? Grace continued to complain. I want fried chicken and ice cream, but you won't let me have them. I'll tell Dad and Aunt Sophia that you're bullying me, she cried, making a scene. I sighed, pulling out a 100-yen bill and placing it in front of her. Why don't you go buy it yourself? The fried chicken shop is just across the street. Grace eagerly took the money and skipped off happily to the shop. I watched her go, shaking my head. Oh, child, in our previous life we were poor, and you couldn't afford fried chicken, so you kept a slim figure. Later, you studied dance, and it was your slim, fair appearance that charmed William, the talented guy from the music department. You say you love fried chicken and ice cream now, but if you gain weight, do you think William will still like you? Never mind. If the child loves it, let her eat her fill. Grace returned with a bucket of fried chicken, and I asked where the change was. Reluctantly, she pulled a few banknotes from her pocket and tossed them on the table. Who cares about this little money? She muttered, her face showing clear disdain. She really did have some of Sophia's attitude. Grace had never been very close to me. I used to think it was because I didn't love her enough, so I spoiled her. But later, I discovered that my so-called best friend, Sophia, had been influencing my relationship with Grace all along. She would always talk about how beautiful Aunt Sophia's clothes were, or how Sophia took her to Disneyland, or how she did this or that with her. I hadn't realized when it started, but eventually, Grace had become closer to Sophia than to me. Grace stayed at my place for 10 days. Every day, I bought her fried chicken, ice cream, and cola. After repeatedly promising that I would let her go back home when Jack returned, she became more cheerful and talkative. She told me that Jack and Sophia were on their second honeymoon. Aren't they afraid of jolting the baby? How can they go on a honeymoon when she's months pregnant? I asked. I then asked her, do you like Aunt Sophia? Yes, she said. I followed up. Do you like Mom more or Aunt Sophia more? She hesitated and didn't answer. I touched her face, which had obviously gained weight in these few days, and smiled. When Jack came to pick her up, she was still holding a bottle of cola and waved happily at me. Emily, thank you for taking care of Grace. I'll treat you to dinner sometime, he said. I almost laughed out loud. Something must have happened to him during the trip with Sophia. His attempt at reconciliation was pretty obvious. No need. You'd better go back. Your wife and kids are waiting for you at home, I replied. Next month is Grace's great-grandfather's 90th birthday. You should come too, Jack said. Jack's grandfather had always taken good care of me. Unlike his ungrateful grandson, I'll still send a nice gift to the old man's birthday even if I don't attend. After the two ungrateful ones, big and small, left, I quickly tidied up the house. I threw away the water glass, towel, and toothbrush Grace had used, and even removed the cushion from the sofa she had sat on and discarded it. I just couldn't get over it. Having a daughter who helped her father harm her own mother. Even though I had a second chance in this life, I still found myself haunted by the memory of Jack poisoning me, while Grace laughed beside him. After waking up from the dream, I stared at the ceiling, tears falling down my face, reaching my mouth. The salty tears soon soaked my pillow. Grace hated me so much that she teamed up with her father to hurt me this way. Jack, who tried to steal my property and take my life, I won't let them have an easy time. Looking out the window at the grilled sausage stall across the street, I thought about my past life when I sold grilled sausages for just a few yuan each, constantly fearing the urban management officers would come to chase me away. I had set up the stall near my daughter's school, hoping she might come see me after class. But to my dismay, she seemed to ignore me completely. I called out to her several times, and after her classmates nudged her, she reluctantly walked over. "Grace, do you want a grilled sausage? Have one and share it with your classmate, too." She pushed my hand away with disgust, nearly knocking the sausage to the ground. "Mom just wanted to come see you," I said quietly. "I'm fine. There's nothing to see. I'm leaving," she replied dismissively. "By the way, don't set up your stall here again. I don't want my classmates to see you. It's embarrassing." I lowered my head and murmured, "Send me another 500 yen for living expenses." Grace moved closer, her voice soft. "Didn't I just give you the living expenses?" I asked, feeling a bit uncomfortable. "I spent a lot this month. Just give it to me if you can. If not, forget it." "I don't want it," she snapped impatiently. Before I could respond, she walked back to her classmates. I overheard her telling them, "She's the aunt next door." One of her classmates asked, "She looks a bit like you. I thought she was your mom." Grace replied, "No way. She's just a fat aunt. You should get your eyes checked if you think that's my mom." My heart nearly broke when I heard that. Jack had brought Grace to stay with me for a short while under various excuses, and over time, Grace was gaining more and more weight. In my past life, she had been learning dance since childhood and had been accepted into one of the country's top dance schools. But now, because of her weight, the teacher advised her to quit. I heard that Grace was strangely happy when she realized she didn't have to practice every day. She said Aunt Sophia wouldn't let her eat fried chicken, ice cream, or drink cola, only plain boiled water. But she also said, "Mom's better because she lets me eat." I patted her head and noticed her mouth was greasy from eating. "If you like it, Mom will buy it for you. Eat up, but remember you'll lose your slim figure and your dreams of dancing. You won't meet William, the one you loved so much in your past life." Jack said that Sophia was such a killjoy, especially when pregnant. She'd throw up whatever she ate, which really affected his appetite. When he saw her vomiting, it made him feel sick, too. I secretly pinched my thigh to stop myself from slapping him in the face. He didn't know that I had been the same when pregnant. His company was going through a critical time, so he often left early and came back late. Even when I wasn't feeling well, I never told him. I even went to my prenatal checkups alone. Jack also complained that Sophia was a pain because she wanted hot and sour soup in the middle of the night. If he didn't go get it for her, she would cry. She didn't even like sour food before, but now she just wanted him to go out and buy it. I followed his comments and said, "Pregnancy can change your tastes, so you should be more understanding toward her." Jack didn't know that I, too, had suddenly craved something in the middle of the night back then. But seeing him sleep soundly beside me, I held myself back from waking him up. Now, looking back, all that patience seemed pointless. "Emily, I now realize how nice you are," Jack said. "We're divorced. Don't say such things. It's not good for the kids to hear," I replied. "If we hadn't divorced back then..." He trailed off. "There are no ifs in this world." Jack looked at Grace, who was eating fried chicken, opened his mouth to speak, but then stayed silent. I noticed a strain in his eyes. He closed them for a moment, then opened them again, his usual calm returning. "Are you coming to Grandpa's big birthday celebration? You don't need to bring a gift. Just showing up will be enough." I smiled and replied, "I'll come." Before Jack's father's big birthday celebration, I got into trouble because of Grace. It was Grace's homeroom teacher who called me to come to the school. I arrived feeling confused. Why was I being called instead of Grace's father? What was going on? I really didn't want to deal with Grace. The teacher said, "Grace's mom, we called you here mainly to discuss Grace's situation at school. Where's her father? We also tried to reach him, but he said he was on a business trip, so we contacted you." I saw Grace standing there, looking indignant. and beside her was a female classmate whose eyes were swollen from crying. "What did she do?" I asked, noticing Grace's bleached yellow hair. "When did she dye her hair?" "She stole money from her desk mate and even tried to steal my cell phone," the teacher explained. I almost choked on my own saliva. My daughter learning to steal money at such a young age and even trying to steal from the teacher. The teacher added, "Please call the police." I grabbed the teacher's hand and said, "She's beyond redemption. She's completely bad. The worse she becomes, the happier I am." The teacher tried to calm me down. "Grace's mom, don't get angry. We just want to let you know that parents should give their children more care and attention." I barely listened to the teacher's lecture, my eyes darting to the desk. Before the teacher could finish, I grabbed a ruler and started hitting Grace. She was bad, dyeing her hair, stealing money. I had wanted to do this for a long time, and it felt so good to finally punish her. Grace screamed and ran away, crying. Suddenly, she shouted, her face twisted with hatred. "What right do you have to hit me?" "I hate you." The teachers in the office rushed over to stop me. "Grace just made a mistake out of greed. You should teach her patiently," they urged. I shook my head. "No, Grace's badness is in her bones. Teach her. If she needs to be punished, then punish her. If she should be expelled, then expel her. I can't handle her anymore." Grace was later given a major demerit, which went into her school record, affecting her chances of getting into a good school. Today was Jack's father's 90th birthday. I got up early to get dressed, choosing a dress that would hide my flaws while accentuating my good features. Looking at my curvy figure in the mirror, I nodded in satisfaction. Although I had already lost a lot of weight over the past few months, I still hadn't fully regained my pre-birth shape. However, I knew that the slim figure many women desired might not always be appealing to men. I was aware that Jack liked a body with a little more flesh on it. Carrying a gift for Jack's father, I took a taxi to the Jack family's house. Since the old man had trouble moving, the celebration was held at home. Many relatives and friends were invited, and because the Jack family's villa was too small to fit all the tables, they had set them up outside. There were 20 tables set up in the neighborhood in front of the house. I ignored the curious stares from the relatives and friends and walked straight to the old man. "Is my granddaughter-in-law here? Where have you been? Why haven't you visited me in so long?" The old man held my hand and kept asking why I hadn't come to see him. I glanced at Jack, wondering why he hadn't told the old man that we were already divorced. "Grandpa, this isn't your granddaughter-in-law. Your daughter-in-law is Sister Sophia." Jack's sister, Mia, interrupted from the side. I gave a slight smile, not bothering to argue with her. She had never liked me. Mia scolded. "You're being mischievous again. Don't I know my own granddaughter-in-law?" "Grandpa, you're just confused." Jack tried to calm him down in a quiet voice, hoping to avoid upsetting the old man. The old man grasped Jack's hand, his mouth trembling. I worried he might get too excited and faint, so Jack quickly reassured him. "It's not true. Don't listen to nonsense. Emily is your granddaughter-in-law." As Jack said this, Sophia entered the room and I noticed her eyes flash with anger. I couldn't help but smile at her frustration, watching her shoulders shake. While playing with a cousin's child, I got my blouse dirty, so I went to an empty guest room to clean it. "Need any help?" Jack's voice rang out. I quickly gathered my clothes. "What are you doing in here? Why are you hiding it? It's not like I've never seen it before," Jack muttered. I rolled my eyes inwardly, suppressing my disgust. "What are you doing here?" I asked again. He stared at the wet stain on my blouse, swallowed hard, and said, "You won't get that out. Change into this instead." Looking at the growing stain, I knew it wouldn't come out no matter how much I washed it. The banquet hadn't started yet, and I didn't want to show up like this, so I took the clothes he handed me. "Are these Sophia's clothes?" "Yes, but they're new. The tag's still on. Just use them for now," Jack replied. The clothes were from a high-end brand, and I realized Jack must be willing to spend on Sophia. As I changed, Jack couldn't resist any longer and turned around, hugging me tightly. I pretended to push him away and said, "Your wife is still here." He buried his face in my neck, breathing deeply. "You're doing this on purpose," he said in a low, frustrated tone. I knew exactly what he wanted. After so many years of marriage, I understood his behavior. Now that Sophia was pregnant, I assumed he'd been holding back for a while. So, what do you want? I deliberately stretched out my words. Let's remarry, and I'll talk to Sophia about it. Wait until you sort things out, and then we'll talk. Jack kissed me again, and I pushed him away. Go out first. I'll be out in a minute. After he left, I turned on the faucet, stared at myself in the mirror, and wiped my mouth with a few tissues. I threw my dirty blouse into the trash. Dirty clothes should be thrown away, and so should dirty men. After getting myself together, I opened the door and walked out, just as Sophia was coming upstairs. She immediately saw what I was wearing and stormed over. Why are you wearing my clothes? Were you just with Jack? What did you two do? I responded deliberately. What do you think? Sophia's face turned red with fury. Emily, you're shameless, she shouted. Thanks for the compliment. When it comes to shamelessness, I'm no match for you. Can I borrow a few layers of your skin? I think you have plenty, Sophia snapped. Jack didn't want you anymore. Why are you still showing up here? You say it's because your daughter misses you, but I think it's because you still want to be Mrs. Jack. I calmly replied, I don't care about that. If you can, keep your husband in line and don't let him come to me. Don't keep whining in front of me like a lapdog. Sophia reached out to grab me, but as I looked at the stairs, a bold idea crossed my mind. I pretended to dodge her hand and backed away several steps. You're stealing someone else's husband. If you have guts, don't run away. Let's go to our relatives and friends and let them judge. Sophia kept coming at me, and as I backed up further, I lost my balance and fell backward. Seeing her panic, I smiled victoriously. A loud crash, followed by Sophia's screams, echoed through the hall. Despite grabbing the handrail, I fell hard, and the pain was intense. I lay there motionless as Jack's relatives quickly gathered around. How could you be so vicious and push someone down the stairs? One of them yelled. I didn't push her. It was her own fault, I protested. Call an ambulance quickly. Emily, Emily. Jack's face went pale, and the panic in his eyes was evident. He wanted to pick me up, but didn't dare move me, worried he would worsen the injury. I gripped his hand tightly to distract myself, and to my surprise, his hand started shaking. Are you feeling sorry for your ex-wife now? So fake. I don't believe that a man who poisoned his wife for a house in his past life could love her this much, I said, looking at Sophia with a knowing look. Don't blame her, I added, making everyone even more convinced that Sophia was the one who had pushed me down the stairs. Jack tried to defend Sophia. It wasn't me. She fell by herself. I didn't believe a word of it. Who in their right mind would harm themselves? Stop talking. I won't believe anything you say. Jack remained silent. You believe her, but not me? You heartless bastard, I shouted. Say whatever you want. Don't come to the hospital anymore. She needs to rest quietly. I'll stay here to take care of her. Though I had already woken up long ago, listening to Jack and Sophia argue outside my hospital room brought me a sense of satisfaction. Despite the pain all over my body, multiple soft tissue bruises, a sprained ankle, and a concussion that required observation, I still felt it was worth it. Sophia had been the cause of all my tragedies in my previous life. If she hadn't had an affair with Jack, nothing of this would have happened. Of all the people, Sophia, Jack, and Grace, Sophia was the one I hated the most. Sophia's voice grew louder. What do you mean leaving your pregnant wife alone to take care of your ex-wife? Jack, have you lost your mind? I listened with great satisfaction, enjoying her hysterical tone. I'm just helping you clean up the mess, Jack replied. Think about the baby in my belly. Your daughter has hyperinsulinemia. Don't you want a healthy child? Jack hesitated and stayed silent. I recalled that Jack had mentioned Grace's diagnosis of hyperinsulinemia caused by obesity. Jack, think about it. There's a good chance this baby in my belly is a son. Don't you want a son? Sophia coaxed. You're not a doctor. What's the point of you staying here? Just hire a caregiver for her. As Jack seemed almost convinced, I quickly shouted, No! Don't push me. Hearing my shout, Jack rushed into the room. Emily, you're awake. Don't be scared. I'm here. I made my voice sound fearful, saying, Jack, I'm in so much pain. I'm so scared. Jack embraced me to comfort me. Don't be afraid. I'm here. No one can hurt you anymore. Sophia rushed in and saw Jack holding me. She lunged at him, fists raised. Jack grabbed her wrist just in time to stop her. Let me go. I want to tear you apart, Sophia screamed. Jack pushed her away and she crashed to the ground with a scream. She curled up, staring at Jack in disbelief. You actually hit me? She cried. My belly. It hurts so much. I watched as blood quickly stained her white dress. I smiled. I stayed in the hospital for half a month, and Jack and Sophia didn't come to bother me again. I heard that Sophia had lost her baby and was in the middle of a divorce lawsuit against Jack, claiming domestic violence and suing him to take everything he had. I also heard Jack had to sell his house and car to pay for the compensation. Eventually, he went bankrupt and could only survive by delivering food, as a friend of his had told me. I smiled and said it had nothing to do with me. Lucas visited me often while I was recovering in the hospital. I knew what he had in mind. I told him to give me some time to heal. He nodded and said, We'll take it slow. Life will bring us many people, and everything that happens is part of fate. There will always be someone you connect with, where you both appreciate each other and grow together.